Right, I'm here with my boy Nick Francis. Myself and Nick are very familiar with each other. We've worked together many times on DR Boxing. Nick Francis, aka the voice of reason, so I'm interested to hear what he has to say today. I would start by saying, look, this was third game today. The opening day, scratchy 2-1 win against Forest, followed up by a win away against Palace down to 10 men. And then today, coming into this game, a lot of people, myself included, I'm pretty sure you as well, was expecting Arsenal not just to win, but to win with something to spare, and that didn't happen. Give us your thoughts on Arsenal's start to the season so far.
Well, it's the third time we've conceded in under a minute in 2023. Lots of lack of concentration. I know we've had some injury problems, but the manager doesn't seem to know his best 11, which is strange. I thought last season was a very good season, bar in the last sort of 10 games, and it seems like Arteta seems to disagree with that because he's trying to do a bit more of an overhaul than we expected. We thought maybe a striker would come in, a fullback would come in, a centre mid, some small changes, and it seems like wholesale changes. Today, Rice and Havertz starting with Ødegaard, that's an entirely, and we've seen that before, but that's an entirely different, 2 out of 3 midfielders that's different. I'm not sure quite why we're having the overhaul. I didn't feel that that's what it needed. We needed more. We needed a bit of squad depth. I looked at the bench, really, really happy with the bench. To have these players of this type of quality on the bench is great. But yeah, I'm a little bit confused, really. And the team feels like it's either lacking identity or trapped between two different identities at the moment.
Interesting, because a couple of the other guys I spoke to after the game made a similar point. Now, let's look at it logistically. So he's got Partey in at right back. He's got Havertz in the team. He started with Trossard up front. Now, it was my personal opinion that regardless of the team we played today, we should have beaten Fulham. We didn't beat them. So now a lot of people, in retrospect, are going back and looking at the team selection and saying it wasn't right. That's what I'm gathering from you. You feeling that way?
No. We should be beating Fulham regardless. We've never lost to Fulham at home. In the Premier League, I think it was like 24 wins and 6 draws or something like that. We should be beating that team. That team that we put out today is more than capable. Partey is capable of inverting. Partey at right back is not my favourite position for him, but he does it well. With Rice at DM, that's fine. But, Havertz gave us a real lack of intensity today. It seems strange to me, not just that we bought him for 65 million, but that we're binning Nicola Pepe, who we bought for 72 million, for very similar reasons, that lackluster body language, that intensity. If I'm looking at last season towards the end when we were trying to get that siege mentality into the team, and I could see that from Ødegaard, I could see that from Saka, Martinelli, Jesus, Zinchenko especially. Do I see Havertz chipping in with that? Do I see that intensity as a character? Not really. So he seems to be slightly out of kilter with the rest of the model of what we're trying to bring in. I don't really understand it. I'm not going to put it completely on him. Saka was poor today. Let's have it right. He scored the penalty and that was good. It's going to be good for his confidence, but he was poor, giving away the goal. And, Ramsdale as well.
It could be argued that he was at fault for both of their goals. Definitely the first one with the pass that went awry. And then Fulham's second goal, it would appear that he was a bit slow to the mark in marking the striker then.
I'm not a sports psychologist, but how do you legislate for poor concentration? Does that come from the manager? I would imagine not, to be honest with you, but I'm just asking the question. Arteta is a very detail-oriented, very intense person, so probably not from him, but we continue to lose concentration. Either we go 2 or 3 goals up and then we lose concentration, like, with Forest, or we lose concentration from the beginning. A big problem for me is that the 2 goals we scored were 70 minutes and 72 minutes. We had a purple patch in the game, but outside of that, we weren't overly impressive across the 90 minutes. We had, spells of possession and different things like that, but why we've moved away from what was working towards this, I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, you mentioned Havertz earlier. Now, a lot of people are talking about Havertz and not for the right reasons. Do you think the inclusion of Havertz in the team is starting to become a problem?
For me, we've bought a player who is a utility player. We saw him at Chelsea. I know people are saying to me it's not useful to bring up his Chelsea years, but he never carved out a starting position at Chelsea, a dedicated position. He was never a dedicated goal scorer. He was never a dedicated assister. He's a player that's had moments. How he goes from a faltering Chelsea side into an Arsenal side which is trying to win a title. And again, based on what you've seen in the 2-3 games we've seen him in, what would you say his best attributes are? Do you mean, is he a box-to-box? Is he a 9? The best performance was in the Community Shield when he played up top as a false 9 or as a number 9 and knocking the ball down for the team. In terms of the midfield, haven't seen anything from him. I'm not seeing shots from him, tackles from him, anything that you would see from a number 8. I think he's technically a better player than Xhaka, but Xhaka made up for that in intensity and work rate and athleticism, and I'm not seeing that.
Okay, and moving on to next week, massive game coming up against Man United. They won today, we didn't.
Yeah.
I've got to ask you, your team for next week.
Look, Man United won, but they were 2-0 down against Forest as well. They have similar issues in terms of mentality and concentration. We're able to get at them. And we looked much, much better when we reverted to type. Last thing I'll say on Havertz, but moving on to what we're saying about Man United, I think there were 2 or 3 players that could play a number 8 position better than him. Partey, Rice, Vieira, even Smith Rowe maybe at the moment. So we should be beating Manchester United next week, 100%. They are vulnerable. If we revert to what we know, Partey, Rice, good physicality, good intensity in that midfield with Ødegaard there for the stringing the balls together, through balls as well. Between Jesus and Nketiah to start, I like Trossard coming off the bench because he's so versatile. Nketiah scored against Man United last season when he stepped in for Jesus' injury. So I'd want to revert to, Zinchenko's got to be starting as well because he was great when he came on. So we've got to revert back to what we know, and we should be. It will be tough because Man United, respect to them, they're obviously a big club and they've got some real talent there. But I'd expect us to win that game.
And just finally, based on what you've seen so far, how optimistic are you for the rest of the season?
We have to use the squad. We've wanted Arteta to rotate players, and today he rotated players and changed the system. I think the system that we had before, obviously he sees the players in training, he knows more than me, but from an outside perspective, I'd want to keep the system, but rotate the players a little bit more. We have a lot of attacking talent. We did bring on some of that attacking talent with Fabio Vieira and Nketiah. We also have Jesus. I know he came on. We've got Smith Rowe. We've got Reece Nelson. We have a lot of attacking talent. We're going to need all these guys to chip in across the season. If it's a blip, I'd rather have the blip now and then we can address it later on. But yeah, it's too early to say for the season. It's too early to say anything. I'm still optimistic for the season. We've got David Raya as well. Maybe he doesn't make those mistakes. We've got a really good squad. We should still be coming out of this season with some type of silverware.